So we're done with theodicy, right? And we want to talk about miracles. Miracles. Voila. Okay, so again, we are Christians. Yes. I will do that at 5. Can you remind me? Okay, thank you. So as Christians, as we said, we answer as Christians when we ask them questions. So now we want to know, people are arguing that miracles are not possible, mainly because they say they are contradictions. But before we speak about contradictions, let me say what a miracle requires. Because people are saying sometimes that the reason why miracles are not possible is because natural laws are immutable. Well, for a miracle to be a miracle, there has to be immutable laws. Because if the laws are not immutable, they are happenings. And miracles should happen if laws are not immutable. So the idea that people are saying miracles cannot happen because you cannot change the immutable laws, it's self-defeating because there has to be immutable laws to be something to be special. Right? If every time I don't know, I don't have an example. Every time I start my car, no, it doesn't always start, so I should not have it. So, well, you know what I mean. I don't have any example, whatever. Okay, so the point being is that for something to be miraculous, it's not supposed to happen. So we agree with you. There has to be natural laws, and there has to be regularity in the universe for us to call something miracles. Now, people are saying miracles cannot happen because they are contradictions. And this is what Peter Kreeft says about it. Peter Kreeft is a philosopher. He's a Christian philosopher. He wrote a very interesting book. By the way, did you know that JFK, who is the American president, who died on November 63? Was it? Was it 21st November? 21st? I don't know. Somewhere around that. Died the same day than C.S. Lewis, exact same day, and exact same day with Aldous Huxley, who was an atheist philosopher. And he wrote a very interesting book that if you want to have fun, you read. And in his book, he has the three of them meet between heaven and earth and talk about where they are and where they're going. It's very, very amazing. And the book title, I think, is Between Heaven and Earth. Simple. So this is what Peter Kreeft says. A man walking through a wall is a miracle. He's thinking about Jesus. A man walking and not walking through a wall at the same time, in the same respect, that is a contradiction. So miracles are not contradictions. Contradiction is something different. People are saying, it cannot happen because it would contradict reality. No. A contradiction is two things that are possible happening at the same time. While somebody walks through a wall, doesn't walk through a wall. One who doesn't walk through a wall, this is normal. One who walks through the wall, it's a miracle. But having somebody who does that and does not do that in the same time, this is a contradiction. So miracles are not contradiction. This is what we want to make clear. Now, there are two separate questions when we talk about miracles. Number one is, look at this wonderful Prevention 9. If people who come into the class, don't you think that they would understand right away that what we've been talking about this morning? This is the clearest chart ever. I think this is... Did you have this one before I put it away because you need this one for it? You have it, right? Okay, everybody has this one? This is very important because... It's open to some interpretation. You think so? What should I change? Because I don't want to be too open though, but okay. Well, if you have that, you got the whole week. This is what I'm trying to say. So you got it, you're good. You're good to go. All right, it's about to disappear. Poof. So there are two questions when we're asking, oh, you got it. Can you show it to everyone? He's got it. You're good to go. All right, good. You're fine. You had your 3 credits. Okay. That's the final. Yes. Are miracles possible? That's one question we're asking. But the other question that people forget to ask sometimes, which is another way you ask the question, is, are miracles factual? Meaning, did they happen already? And though those questions are quite different in a sense, they depend on each other. The later, this one, depending on the other one. Remember when we spoke about presuppositions? In the class, we mentioned that several times. If I bring someone proofs of miracles, they will dismiss the proofs of miracles if I don't challenge the first questions. If somebody thinks that miracles are not possible, then they will answer no to any proofs that I bring to answer the second questions. Are miracles factual? They cannot be factual because they are not possible. Well, what if we have proofs of miracles? Well, you cannot have proof of miracles. Remember what we said about Stuart Chase. For those who believe, no proofs are necessary. For those who don't believe, no proofs are possible. That's what we're talking about. This is not an important chart. You don't have to remember this one. Okay. Some people are saying that, basically, before we address the idea of miracles, and what I want to do is actually not make a case for miracles, because that's something you can read everywhere. What I would like to do is actually challenge the idea that miracles are not possible. And because I want to show you how we do the challenging part again. How can we challenge the non-believers? And because you can read a lot of books, about miracles. And one of them, The Miracles by C.S. Lewis is a good one. So you can look into that. But people are saying miracles are not possible, period. Okay? But as Greg Banson said, the denial of the very possibility of miracle is not a piece of evidence for rejecting the Christian worldview. Meaning, it's not because I say miracles are not possible that I have an argument. Sometimes people get away with this. It's like, you talk about miracles, people say, oh, miracles are not possible. How do you know that? Because they're not possible. Where is the argument? They just don't happen. Okay? What if I prove to you they wouldn't? You can't prove it to me because they don't happen. That's circular reasoning. So the thing is, the denial of the very possibility of miracles is not a piece of evidence for rejecting the Christian worldview, but simply a specific manifestation of that very rejection. Meaning the reason why I say I don't believe in miracles, so Christianity is not true, is because I believe Christianity is not true, so I don't believe in miracles. But that, again, is circular reasoning. I cannot use the denial of miracles as a proof against Christianity because I deny miracles because I don't believe in Christianity. So this is not a good argument. And this is what our good friend Chesterton, because I think I should quote him a little more, says about miracles. There is only one reason an intelligent person does not believe in miracles. He or she believes in materialism. This is why people don't believe in miracles, because they believe in something else. And again, we go back into presuppositions, as we said earlier. Now, why did I put David Hume before Spinoza? I'm making a switch. Here we go. Look at this wonderful person right here. Did you see the haircut? This is a nice haircut. You don't see the image. I'm going to put that away. Who said that? You said, oh, you're in so much trouble. You are. He's got these 3 credits, and now he's got 6 because he's got your 3 credits. You said it. You're in trouble. He's my good friend. You're not. Not like that, though, here. That requires some work. That requires a lot of work. So you heard about Spinoza, right? I haven't tried it. Should I? Maybe next time I will. Maybe I need to talk to my wife about it. Oh my God, we're losing ground here. Okay, so this is Spinoza. You heard about him, I'm sure. Spinoza said basically that miracles cannot occur. Miracles are not possible because they should be violation of natural laws. But David Hume, which we spoke about earlier, which maybe I will look like him when I grow older because he has gray hair, says that they are likely to occur. But the reason why they are not likely to occur is because they really can't. So it's the same thing. So Spinoza and David Hume are the ones that really spoke, they wrote extensively on miracles, and maybe David Hume is the one that wrote the most about this. And we spoke about this earlier, but he's the father of empiricism. And what's the other one? Remember? Skepticism. And actually, both are related, meaning that what is outside of our sense perception, which is my things I can empirically try, things I'm not able to know, so I live in skepticism. But he has some skepticism also with some perception. So he's more a skeptic than an empiricist, basically. But let's go back to Spinoza. So Spinoza, this is what he says. Number one, miracles are a violation of established and immutable natural laws. Number two, it is impossible to violate immutable laws. And number three, miracles are thus impossible. So miracles would be, and they are, according to him, a violation of the laws. You cannot do that, so miracles are not possible. Simple. Now, what you need to know about Spinoza, he's not a Christian, and he's a deist. Basically, what he means by that is that, deist / pantheist, because really, when you look into what he says, is that he rules out the idea of an all-powerful God. So what you need to know is that it just shows his presuppositions. He says that miracle cannot occur. And premises number two, it is impossible to violate immutable laws. It's because he's thinking that there is no all-powerful God. Now, if there is an all-powerful God, then that premises number two does not stand anymore. If God created the natural laws, he can also overrule the natural laws the way he wants them to be overruled. So the only way to negate miracles is also to negate the existence of God. But you cannot say that miracles are not possible on any other basis, meaning that the reason why I'm arguing against miracles is because I believe there is no God, but I don't have any other presuppositions. And we go back to what Chesterton said earlier, meaning that the reason why intelligent people don't believe in miracles is because they believe in something else. So believing that miracles are not possible is not scientific, if you want to say this. It's not reasonable, it's not rational, it's just a matter of presuppositions. This is it. So, but when you think about this, even without God, can we have proofs, in a sense, that without God, natural laws are violated? Do we have proofs of that? If we do, which one? Yes. So, to make it more precisely, what you're saying is that when an airplane flies, the gravity is still there. Now, the law that makes him fly is stronger than the law of gravity. But is he flying? It is flying. Is he violating the law of gravity? No. So it is important for us to know that is it possible for God or for anyone, to overrule one law without violating it? The answer is yes. But deeper than that, do we have proofs that laws in the past or now have been or are violated in nature? You want to say something, Johan?
Like it's the silly example, but you see in the East, they have the persons that practice some kind of magic and things like that. So it's more acceptable in that culture, where it violates a natural law.
Okay.
Even in modern days, have David Copperfield and these kind of magicians.
Okay. Well, that would be more illusions than anything. Actually, they're making you think that they're doing it. But actually, we could use animism and any other kinds of things that you can see in some other places. But people who actually deny miracles, they would not believe that what Africans see in Africa, it cannot happen, but it actually does happen. But they would dismiss that in the same sense.
I'm thinking that most of our laws, if all of our laws, are based upon observation.
Yes.
We observe an apple falling, so we create the law of gravity. So if somebody observes something that seems to violate our established laws, then we would create a new law that would encompass this new observation.
Yes. So yeah, we need to understand what natural laws are. Now, are natural laws always immutable? This is what we're discussing. But actually, it's the facts, the point that Pastor Simon is making is that natural laws are being said to be immutable because this is the way we perceive it. So reason itself is a matter of faith, as Chesterton said. I know that because of my reason, but how can I rely on my reason being right? That is a matter of faith too. So that could be a line of argument. But there is a simple way to put it. Can non-life create life? You know that this is an immutable law, right? Non-life cannot create life. What according to evolution it happened. So even on evolutionary background, even on evolutionary ground, immutable laws have been violated in the past. So if they have been by evolution, why can it happen again today? So number one, as Pastor John said, there are some laws that can overrule some other laws. And number two, we obviously say that it happened in the past. And number three, as Pastor Simon said, it's just a matter of faith to think that what we see is actually accurate. Pastor Marto?
This is something that I don't know if I'm right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I have for the longest time perceived that whole issue about natural laws is simply like I cannot believe that universe is functioning by itself. Everything is upheld by God, and it is natural laws are just simply in the smallest subatomic level. It is just it's God that is keeping and holding and keeping everything going, and things are not independently happening from Him. It's just simply His faithfulness that we can rely on things going a certain way, and there's an order in the universe, but it's not something that's autonomous from God. So if it's God already in the first place, I think that is an argument. And second thing is like while natural law is violated, I catch the apple before it hits the ground. What about God catching the apple?
Yeah. Well, actually, yes. But the gravity doesn't mean it will touch the ground. It means it will go down. But you're right by saying that actually, the idea is that I believe Colossians 1:17 says that God is not just did not create the world, but is upholding the world right now. So this is Chesterton. I think you have your quote 53. I'm going to quote it later, but this is what Chesterton says: a miracle only means the liberty of God. This is it. I mean, a miracle means that God is free to do whatever he wants. That's the point. So that's what you're saying. He's upholding, the universe right now, and the laws can be changed anytime without any danger of anything uncontrollably happening, because he's actually upholding and at the same time doing the miracle. So the miracles, if they would be, and they have to be, a violation of those natural laws, then God is in control anyway. All right. Are we good? So, this is a quote from Thomas Nigel. Thomas Nigel is not a Christian scientist, but he actually making a point. He's making a point about a book that he read from Plantinga. And Alvin Plantinga is a Christian philosopher. And it's what he says in the book, about the book. Plantinga holds that miracles are not incompatible with the law of physics because those laws determine only what happens in the closed systems without external intervention. And the proposition that the physical universe is a closed system is not in itself a law of physics, but a naturalistic assumption. He's making two very important points right here. Number one is that the universe, saying that miracles are impossible, is another way to say that we are the only one on the earth. We are the only one in the universe. We don't know that. It's a closed system, so there is no outside, interventions. We don't know that. And number two, he's saying that the very idea that the universe is a closed system is an assumption, is not a law. So we base laws on things that are not laws. We base the idea that the natural laws are immutable on an assumption that cannot be proven, that the universe is a closed system, meaning that there is nothing behind it. I mean, it could be God or anything according to him. But the point being is that this is, again, an assumption. Okay, so miracles are not a violation of natural laws. I don't know if you heard of Warfield. He's an American theologian. He used to be a professor at Princeton Seminary before he became liberal. And he said that to him, miracles are new causes producing new effects. Simple. And it goes with what we said about Plantinga. If there is God, and there is a God, then miracles are possible, because we are not in a closed universe, and there is an outside intervention. So new causes, so the regular causes would be natural laws that that have some consequences. If you jump from a building, then you fall down. Okay, this is it. It's a natural law. But if there is a new cause, then there has to be a new effect. And that's possible if you believe in God. And that's not possible if you don't believe in God. But not believing God, again, is an assumption. It's not a physical law. Believe that the universe is a closed universe is an assumption that cannot be proven. So we go back about the idea of that Pastor Post spoke about the plane. Well, the plane actually flies because of a new cause, which is the mastering of the laws of not thermodynamics, aerodynamics. He flies because we know how to make it fly. But does that mean that everywhere a plane flies, the law of gravity has been violated? No, it's been overruled. So the law is still there, but there is a new cause, which means the plane is shaped for flying. And he will fly, and every time he flies under him, there is the law of gravity. The reason why it does not go down is because of the law of aerodynamics. So that's the reason why we... he says that new causes produces new effects. Is there any question about that? What we've said so far. Again, what we're doing is just challenging the unbeliever when he thinks that miracles are not possible.
I would like to ask you concerning your relative. You said that he's searching for life.
Life on other planets.
Well, I would like to ask you in like relationship what we are speaking about, but isn't it like that he is trying to find like a miracle? Because like in the closed system, or is it something different? You know what I
Well,
mean?
the closed system includes the universe, not just the
Okay.
planet Earth.
So in
so-
their closed system, actually, is a little bit more open than it seems.
No, the closed system is the whole universe, meaning
Yeah.
that, it means that we, scientists say that we interact with the universe, meaning that there is things coming from the universe, to us. I mean, the obvious things would be, like the meteorites,
Right.
these things.
So if there would be some like extraterrestrial being that it would do something like miraculous, it wouldn't be for them miracle. Then you know what I mean?
You mean that they would play the role of God by being the one that does doing the miracles?
Well, because that if because they say miracle cannot happen.
Yes.
But maybe of course we disagree. But if there would be some alien and do something here, but it would appear like a miracle.
Oh, okay.
But they would say it's not a miracle.
Well, I don't think the issue
But-
of
You know what I mean? Like
Yes, looking for life to another planet does not mean like intelligent life. They're not looking for intelligent life. They're looking for any kind of life. Now, if somebody says, some people believe that trying to explain the way God, they're trying to say that if the world is designed the way it is, then we see there is design, and we have to have some kind of a reason why we're here. Some people believe that we're here because of aliens. But the idea of if it is a closed universe, then where the aliens come from is still a question that we ask. If they have to be, for the aliens to be an uncaused cause, for us, they would have to be God themselves. So that it's just begging the questions. But I don't see a link between the life that they're looking for and the miracles on the earth.
But so is it like that we are arguing here the existence of God's miracles?
Yeah,
That's more precise definition.
Yes.
We are now arguing about that God can make a miracle, not that the miracle can happen.
No, the
You know
argument
what I mean.
that we are doing is that we are challenging the unbelievers when he says that no miracles are possible whatsoever, whatever kinds of miracles we're talking about. They are saying that miracles cannot happen. But the thought behind challenging the idea of miracles is actually challenging Christianity, mainly. So people are using that as a proof. I'm going to show you that God does not exist because you're seeing there are miracles and obviously it don't happen, so this is not possible. But the reason why you are denying that there are no miracles is because you don't believe in God. But you cannot prove me that miracles are not possible. So it's circular reasoning. You're using your own denial. It's the exact same thing if I would do this. You guys don't exist. And if you talk to me, I will think I'm just hearing some voices, but you're not there. It's the same thing. I can prove to you you're not there because I don't see you. I didn't prove anything, but I deny your existence.
Yeah, that's probably what I meant, because I was thinking that if this life from other planet would make a miracle,
Yes.
they would accept it.
Oh,
But
they
if it would have to be God to making the miracle,
Yes.
they wouldn't deny it.
Okay, yes.
That was my point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be easier for men to accept intelligent life on other planet than it would be to accept God. I think you're right. It makes so much more sense. I mean, people from other planets coming and making miracles, and obviously, it seems so clear to me. The pastor post, yeah. I'm so convinced now. I'm just thinking, wow.
And doesn't the same argument hold that we spoke about for the existence of God? To be able to say absolutely miracles cannot happen, you would have to be all-knowing.
Yes.
You would have to be God yourself to be
Yes.
able to totally exclude the possibility of miracles.
Yes. Exactly. I think, we said it several times that and we go back to the famous quote we had from Chesterton several times. Reason itself is a matter of faith, meaning for a rationalist to be thinking that he's right, he has to make a lot of assumptions, and most of them are exactly the opposite of the humility wants us to have by saying, "What do you think you have? You have the truth." But somebody who looks at you and says, "You don't have the truth," he knows something more than I do. He's actually not that humble. When you think about this, is that people come to you and says, "Who do you think you are? You have the truth. Okay, do I have it or not? No, you don't. So how do you know that? So you're saying that I'm claiming to having the truth and I'm proud. This is where I stand. But you're standing here because you're telling me that you know that I don't have the truth. So you're prouder than I am." And the idea of what you're saying about the fact that people are saying that miracles are not possible. They actually investigate, to say that you have to have investigated all possibilities and excluded all of them one by one. And you've done that with your own reasoning, with the assumption that your reasoning works without any problem. It's good sometimes to say that. And actually, we had a discussion at the pause, and let's make a parenthesis. But if you go to Proverbs 26, 4 and 5, we have the idea that the Bible says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly." And then he says, "Answer the fool according to his folly." And can you read maybe those two verses, please?
Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes.
Yes. So we see a contradiction here many times, right? Because we see that I'm supposed not to answer him, but I'm supposed to answer him. How do I do that? Well, he explains how do we do this. Number one, I don't answer him on the ground of his ground, because if I do that, I become like him. And we go back to what we said at the beginning on Monday. Remember what we said about 1 Corinthians 1, 18 through 31, is that we don't want to use a wisdom that did not work, because through man's wisdom they did not know him. So why should I use the wisdom of man to make him known if the wisdom of man cannot bring me to him? So I'm not answering to him according to his own folly, because I will end up like him. I'm thinking, meaning that I'm arguing on his level. But at the same time, I need to answer him according to his folly, because if I don't, he will find himself wise in his own eyes. And the discussion we had in between the class, and this is what Pastor John reminds us, is that sometimes it's good for people to actually be challenged, but more than that also. You remember we said we're careful about the attitude, but we need to challenge people. And I also said several times that we need to be able to discern whether we are facing a legitimate question or an illegitimate question, meaning that the question is itself legitimate, but the attitude behind it, is not legitimate. And we go back to 2 Corinthians 10:5, where we cast down imaginations and every high things that, exalt itself against the knowledge of God. Sometimes we have to be confident and strong in our arguments. We have to help people face reality. And Pastor Klika said yesterday night that he doesn't like too much the idea of debates, and I told you the same thing in the class. And the reason why is because not that we don't want people to do that. People are free to do whatever they want. But the idea of debate, I think it brings the worst out of you. And if I am directed by the Holy Spirit to answer somebody with strength because he's arrogant and needs to be put back into his place, I think there is room for that also. But I'm not sure I will be able to do that in a proper way in a debate, because I will have to do that all the time. Because again, remember what we said in the class. If Christianity is true, and we believe it is, how many arguments can stand against it? None. Because for an argument to stand against anything, that would mean that it's not true. If the argument is sound and valid, and actually proves something, then what it's proving cannot be true. So we have to keep that in mind also. That sometimes we will have to be help people face reality, and sometimes they need to face reality with a head-on collision. Sometimes it's good. All right? Okay, do we want to talk about David Hume? I don't know if we want to talk about David Hume again. He's not very interesting, you know. Let's have fun with David Hume a little bit. I forget this one. Okay. Before I talk about David Hume, let me go back to... oh, not him. I don't know if you heard about this. We're talking about the objections. You know, people are saying sometimes that, you know, miracles worked in the past because people were ignorant. I don't know if you heard that. You know, but and actually David Hume said it. You know, he called people ignorant and barbarous. This is why they believed in miracles. He was not proud and condescending, obviously. He was thinking that he was the only one that was not ignorant and barbarous. Because when you think about this, he's talking about ancient people believing in miracles, but he's addressing people who believe miracles that are contemporary to him. So if they were ignorant and barbarous, they were ignorant and barbarous too, and we are ignorant and barbarous. Now, if you look in the Bible, would you say that people are gullible and they live by faith all the time? I would say the Bible is filled of unbelievers. I mean, even the disciples could not believe that Jesus was resurrected because resurrection doesn't happen. Just that doesn't happen. He cannot be resurrected. Ask Thomas. Thomas was so excited about Jesus being resurrected. No, he did not believe at all. And he was not the only one. Mary Magdalene did not believe that Jesus was resurrected. The disciples did not believe that Jesus was resurrected. In 1 Corinthians 15, the Corinthians did not believe in resurrections. People were not ignorant and barbarous at that time. Just in the Bible, we know that people were not believing. And, you know, in Matthew 28:17, at some point, it actually says that, you know, when they saw Jesus, some worshipped him and some doubted. When they saw Jesus resurrected. I mean, that's kind of an evidence. I mean, I don't think, you know, it's heavy proofs right there. Jesus is there. He has the holes in the hands, the holes in the feet, the hole in the side. He's talking to them. You know, they worship him. Everybody's happy about him. And some people doubt because miracles don't just happen. Those people were not ignorant and barbarous. They were doubting as much as you and I doubt as Christians sometimes that things cannot happen. I believe God loves me sometimes because I don't believe in miracles. I'm thinking I'm not lovable enough. So it would be a miracle for God to love me. So I doubt every day of what the Bible says about me. So, yeah, there is no doubters. There is doubters in the Bible. So let's go with this. Can you read that, Pastor Simon, please? It's quote number 49, if you have your... Oh, can you read from here?
I can read it from here.
Wow, you can, wow.
These things called spectacles.
Okay.
Okay.
This is from his book, you know, of miracles.
Okay. For first, there is not to be found in all history any miracle attested by a sufficient number of men.
I'm sorry, just saying.
Of
I'm
such-
talking about the 500 brothers, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe 500 is not enough.
Of such unquestioned good sense, education, and learning as to secure us against all delusion in themselves. Of such undoubted integrity as to place them beyond all suspicion of any design to deceive others. Of such credit and reputation in the eyes of mankind as to have a great deal to lose in the case of their being detected in any falsehood, and at the same time attesting facts performed in such a public manner and in so celebrated a part of the world as to render the detection unavoidable. All which circumstances are requisite to give us full assurance in the testimony of men.
So what is he saying? Bring me as much testimonies you want to. There cannot be any evidence because they will always be questionable witnesses. That's the point. So miracles are not possible. Why? Because I don't believe they are possible. But I can prove it to you. I have so many witnesses. They cannot be trusted. On what ground? Because they saw miracles. Obviously, everybody knows who somebody who saw a miracle cannot be trusted. That is a very, very strong argument. That is an amazing argument. And this guy is the father of skepticism. I'm skeptic to his own thinking. I become skeptic about him. This is another one. Can you read it again?
$50?
It's 50, yes.
There surely never was a greater number of miracles ascribed to one person than those which were lately said to have been wrought in France upon the tomb of Abbé Paris.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, just a question. It's something that happened that he's referring to. He's saying that he's trying to discuss something that because miracles have been assigned on the tomb of this guy. It was a priest, Catholic priest. People went to the tomb and they had miracles happen to them according to. So he's referring to that story.
Okay. The famous Jansenist with whose sanctity the people were so long deluded. The curing of the sick, giving hearing to the deaf and sight to the blind, were everywhere talked of as the usual effects of that holy sepulchre. But what is more extraordinary, many of the miracles were immediately proved upon the spot before the judges of unquestioned integrity.
Stop, just a minute. Do you see the contradiction? There cannot be any compelling evidence. Now he's arguing that there are, unquestioned authority testimonies. So he's actually saying that, back then, because they were ignorant and barbarous, we've shown that it's not the case. They cannot be trusted. But the judges are of unquestioned, authority, so they have to be trusted. So he's bothered by the idea that there are actually compelling evidence. Let's see how he deals with that.
Okay. Before judges of unquestioned integrity, attested by witnesses of credit and distinction, in a learned age,
Amazing.
and on the most eminent theatre that is now in the world. Nor is this all. A relation of them was published and dispersed everywhere, nor were the Jesuits, though a learned body supported by a civil magistrate and determined enemies to those opinions, in whose favour the miracles were said to have been brought, ever able distinctly to refute or detect them. Where shall we find such a number of circumstances agreeing to the corroboration of one fact? And what have we to oppose to such a cloud of witnesses but the absolute impossibility or miraculous nature of the events which they relate? And this surely, in the eyes of all reasonable people, will alone be regarded as a sufficient refutation.
This is amazing. Wow. I don't believe witnesses can be trusted. Well, we found unquestionable authority of witnesses. What shall we do about this? What have we to oppose to such a cloud of witnesses? What is your argument, David Hume? Please give it to us. But the impossibility of miracles, nature of events with they relate, meaning that they can happen. And this, surely, in the eyes of all reasonable people, meaning not the idiots that believe miracles are possible, will alone be regarded as a sufficient refutations. For me to argue against unquestioned authority witnesses, to tell them this is not possible, is a sufficient refutation. That is the best argument I've ever read in my whole life. Now, who believes in miracles now? I don't. I mean, he's proven to us. It's obviously impossible. That was the point of the class, just to show you that miracles are not possible. David Hume, who's heard of David Hume before? I mean, who took philosophy in school? Most of you didn't. most of you heard about David Hume. He's so famous because of the succeeding of his wonderful skepticism and arguments. This is a part of it. And what we read is paragraph 96 is just 4 paragraphs later because the other one is paragraph 92. So he's self-defeating in a sense, and he's considered the one that actually reduced to nothing the possibility of miracles. This is the kind of arguments we have in the book. So you can rest confident that miracles are not being proven to be wrong yet. All right? Yes, Vince. Wait.
Even without studying philosophy or rules of argument, I would think that an average person can see the irrationality in this presentation.
Yeah, that's what's amazing.
Which means that if it became so famous or agreed with, that people were willingly, acting like the ostriches. I stick my head in the sand and I can't see it. And so really it just shows a willingness to disbelieve and dismiss, which in no way removes someone's accountability,
yes,
such as in Romans 1, because things are evident and you are evidently closing your eyes.
Yes. I think the point you're making again, I think this is the verse we most quoted during the week, Romans 1:18. And the reason why I did it is on purpose, because I want us to understand that what we need to do is not just arguing for God, because we know that the Bible says they already know God. What we want to argue is that though you know God, you suppress the truth. And showing those things is actually making a point that we are bringing them back to reality, which is you have to face God and the reason why you are suppressing the truth. You don't have to face me. I don't care. You can hate me, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. The issue is not between you and I. The issue is between you and God. You are suppressing the truth. You know these things to be true. Your argument, like David Hume, is just a willingness to refuse the idea of miracles because you don't want these miracles to happen. For somebody so intelligent, because when you read some of his writings, the guy makes amazing points on something else, but it comes down to, it's the same with Hawkins. So who can deny that Hawkins he is one of the best scientists that man's ever produced, humanity ever produced. But at the end of his life, he's looking at his writing a book and saying, I don't see any room for God in the universe. This is the dumbest thing ever to say. As a scientist, he's more intelligent than a scientist. He's a philosopher in his mindset. He understands philosophy of science. He has a great mind. But he's thinking, really, that he can say something with assumptions without any proofs. This is what we're talking about. And he needs to, just like David Hume and the people we meet, they need to be brought back to their normal sense, the common sense. You are suppressing the truth. All right? Now, just a few more points we want to make on miracles. Can you read this one too? Thank you. 51. Greg Banson is an apologist, just for you to know that. He's a Christian.
Naturalism and supernaturalism.
Sorry, which means naturalism with miracles cannot happen, naturalism, whatever, miracles can happen.
Are conflicting outlooks regarding the world in which we live and man's knowledge of it. The naturalist claims that what is studied by empirical science is all that there is to reality, and that every event can, in principle, be explained without resorting to forces outside the scope of man's experience or outside the universe. Christian supernaturalism, on the other hand, believes that there is a transcendent and all-powerful God who can intervene in the universe and perform miracles which cannot be explained by the ordinary principles of man's natural experience. Now then, having well accredited reports of a miraculous event, having well accredited reports of a miraculous event is not itself sufficient to change the mind of the naturalist, and for good reasons. The naturalist's presuppositions will require him to dispute the claim that such an event really occurred, or alternatively, will lead him to say that the event is subject to a natural explanation once we learn more about it.
Okay, so 3 points that we want to make about this quote. Number one is that he says the natural claims that what he studies by empirical science is all that there is to reality. That's a lot of assumptions. And number one, when we understand what miracles are all about, is science legitimate to investigate miracles? Why? By definition? Yeah, it's outside of empirical data because it cannot be repeated and proven. People say sometimes, I don't believe that Jesus raised from the dead because people don't raise from the dead. Okay, well, let's not argue about that, but can you show me that Christ did not rise from the dead? It's the same thing. It's not. The claim of Christ being God changes everything. He was not a mere man. He was God. So can you repeat that in the lab? You can't. You would have to have Christ himself do that for you. So science is not legitimate. Number two, Christian supernaturalism, on the other hand, believes that there is a transcendent and all-powerful God who can intervene in the universe and perform miracles. Does it sound irrational to you? It sounds logical to me. If God exists and is the creator of the universe, I believe in miracles. Makes total sense. And number three, at the end, it says the naturalist presuppositions will require him to dispute the claim that such an event really occurred. How he will do that? And he will need to say that event is subject to natural explanations once we have learned more about it. Since there cannot be any supernatural explanations, we have to investigate to find natural explanations, because that's the only one we can find. Pastor Arthur.
I think we could put this. Take another example. I think it also puts its perspective from the naturalist viewpoint. Okay, let's say that like somebody says that there are ghosts, and then like the naturalist says like, no, there are no ghosts. Okay, if there would be ghosts, it would open the door that there are a lot of phenomena in this world that he cannot be in control of or understand. Obviously, yes. Like miracles.
Yes.
It means that like actually the world is, I can control my world much less than I'm willing. So my basic stand, there cannot be any ghost, like it's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. But it would mean that, okay, if there are ghosts, there can be demons, there can be Satan, there can be heaven, hell. Like, where will it lead if something like that is possible?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very real fear.
Yes.
For an unbeliever or a naturalist.
Yes.
In that case.
Yes, it's a very good point. And yeah, it goes back to how we address the people also, is that we're not trying just to make a point, we're trying to help people understand who God is also. The reason why there is miracles, God does not perform miracles just to make fun with he's not like a magician with making tricks up, No, he has a purpose into this. And every time there is a miracles, there is something to be done with it. So it's also miracles in the Bible. Not only they can be challenged in the fact that you can challenge the fact that they're not possible, but you can use them to show the interest that God has for his creation. And that means for you too, as an unbeliever. All right, 2 more quotes, and then we're done with this morning's subjects, and we're going to go back and have some discussions, because I need to leave some time for discussions. But this is what Chesterton says. If a man believes in an unalterable natural law, he cannot believe in any miracle in any age. If a man believes in a will behind law, he can believe in miracles in any age. Meaning by that is that we go back to what we said earlier about the barbarous nations. Well, it's okay. It was okay, to believe in miracles back then, but it's not okay to believe in miracles today. I don't understand how in 21st century people can believe in miracles. I don't understand that. Well, let me tell you that if somebody believes that there is a God he has to believe that miracles are possible. 21st century or 15th century doesn't make any difference. What makes me believe in miracles is what I believe in metaphysics, not in the century I'm living. Truth is not about fashion. Truth is about truth. What was true back then is not true today. Well, in our lives, it's true. I mean, what was true back then was true today, meaning things change in our lives. But the ultimate truth does not change. If God existed, in the 15th century, then he exists still today because he's God. So it doesn't work. And then one more quote, a miracle only means the liberty of God, as we said earlier. This is it. What we're saying is that if God exists, he can do whatever he wants. Okay? Questions and comments on that particular subject?
Just a very brief question concerning miracles and how when Jesus performed the miracles that he performed, about the one miracle that Jesus performed on the Sabbath and how the people reacted.
With the man in the withered hand?
Yeah, with the withered hand.
And the question you want to know is, why did he do that on the Sabbath day, or? Oh, okay, yeah. Why did they react about this? Well, they mainly reacted not because they believe, and that's actually, thank you for the questions, because it helps me address the question of suppressing the truth. Again, suppressing the truth for a non-Christian is basically he doesn't believe God exists. But do we as Christians suppress the truth? I guess we do. And we can do that in many ways. And what happened at that time is that he did miracles on the Sabbath, and people, instead of seeing Christ intervening in a miraculous way in somebody's life, they saw the law that was broken. It means that you're not supposed to do something on the Sabbath. You're not supposed to work, which is not true. Actually, you were allowed to walk for a mile, or do this and that. So I mean, basically, healing somebody by doing nothing, just looking at him and say, stretch your hand, it should not be outside of what's permitted on Sabbath. But the reason why they reacted is because it was on the Sabbath, and you're not supposed to perform any work on the Sabbath. But what's interesting is it's what they noticed when this happened is that he did something that was wrong according to their eyes. And it shows us the shrink, universe of the materialist, as we said earlier with Chesterton, when he says that the way we see things when we don't when we don't think with God is very shrink. It's little, because what I see is not the life on not somebody's life who's been transformed. The guy's life is a whole new level now. He's healed. He can do things. He doesn't have to beg maybe for the rest of his life. He has his two hands working. What I'm interested in, you broke the Sabbath law. That's the reason why they reacted to the miracle. Anyone else on the subject of miracles, or on any other subjects we covered this week? Maybe we have 22 minutes left, and then we have 4 more hours tonight. But
could I return to the subject that we had last night?
Mm-hmm.
I was so blessed by the 2 gentlemen, pastors who were here, and I had this little question about what's the use of this to us, which is not a nice question in a way. It's a good question, but it's not.
Good question.
And I was so blessed by their humility and frankness to say that in their experience, they feel that the place for that discourse and that presentation is most useful inside of the church. Yes. To help and aid the believers. And that is kind of an aspect of apologetics that we haven't been stressing here this week. And I was wondering that you have any comments about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. One thing I didn't say last night when you asked the questions is also that I think even if I don't understand everything you've been saying last night, which I don't, because I mean it's understanding about a lot of details to know. If it's not your field, it's too much information for us to recall, you know. And I would say that most of what they said last night, it would be interesting for people to hear as the amount of evidence, but I don't know if people would be able to digest so much evidence in the same time, meaning that the point was it's overwhelming. And then what I need to remember is, to me, what is the most important proofs, the challenge for evolution. Number one is the basic assumption they are making, about the life, giving non-life, and all these things that we could cover. But also, I think what's good is for us to know that the answers and the arguments are out there. They are there, even though I don't master them. But to come back to what you're saying is that it is true. I think, and I've been talking with Karen at the break, and she said that it's important for us as believers also to know these things for several reasons. Number one, because sometimes we are bombarded, with unbelief, and people are saying things, and then so for our own sakes, but also for our own sakes, because people outside of the church, friends, family, co-workers, they also are bombarded with those things, and it will come back to us in a way, but that helps us to do two things. Number one, to have maybe more confidence in our own faith. It makes sense, and I can articulate those things because I understand them, and my presentation and understanding of the gospel is deeper because of apologetics. I think it helps that. And number two, when I do present the gospel and I'm answering questions, I do have answers, and it gives me more confidence to be a better evangelist too. So, yes, I think it's important. Ramir?
The presentation for me was very good, because I think Pastor Klika said that it really takes a study to understand the DNA and how it works, and because the evolutionist always starts with the atom and how its life started, then you have to start with the DNA, which corresponds with all these nucleotides and amino acids, which is very important to understand also, in my opinion, because that's how life is formed. And it's really hard because it's a lot of things to remember.
Yes.
But I can relate. It's because I have the background, and it's science is talking about that issue a lot of times.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's you remember we said also several times, and I think I repeated last night to expand on Pastor Arto's questions, that you do not use arguments that you don't feel comfortable. Some of you feel comfortable with science, then use the arguments. I don't, and this is why I brought them in, and I will bring Pastor Norman in tonight because it's not my field. It required to, and honestly, if science is so precise, is that you have imagine you have an astronomist and you have a physicist, and none of them are able to do what the astrophysicist is supposed to do. Astronomy, physics, and the astronomist is a third category. And among the astronomists, some people would devote their life just to find and answer the question, is there life on another planet? This is it. 40 years of career for that. It's very precise. So if it's true for science, then we have to address science also in apologetics and evangelism. I cannot be good in every field, because the scientist who is an astrophysicist cannot answer almost any questions in biology. So if it's not possible for them as scientists, and that's their job, I need to understand my limitations also. So if I feel good with science, I go with it. If I don't, I find other ways. And I found for myself that science is something that is not easy for me. So I use philosophy of science to challenge the unbelievers. And this is what we'll do tonight as a presentation to introduce the class. Show you how there is some assumptions and requirements or presuppositions that we need to have for science to be possible. And those presuppositions we have as Christians, and you don't have if you're not a Christian. And not everybody can understand. Pastor, the microphone.
I have one question that, like, material against evolution is overwhelming. But why shouldn't we have a positive type of argument, like theodicy type of thing? Mm-hmm. That we will see that we can put a deduction together about what is the proof for evolution, same way like we started to handle the issue of theodicy. And then we will disapprove that and create simple logical argument that is like a counter argument for evolution.
Yes.
And then we don't necessarily need to stick with all the physical.
You mean the scientific arguments?
Yeah, scientific arguments. But I don't know, am I on the right track at all? Or
you are, because I think when the Pastor Steve, you asked yesterday, what is according to them honestly the strongest arguments against evolution? I think the strongest arguments are not scientific. The strongest arguments to defend evolution today are social Darwinism and social evolutionism. It's a totally different. It's the philosophical implications and defense of evolution, which is there now because many philosophers, Christian philosophers, theist philosophers, are debating the very philosophy of evolution being possible. And they have some great arguments. And so if you want to go further into that, I think if you're good with science, go with science. If you're not good with science, go with the philosophy. And what you're saying is that I do have the problems I have with evolution, apart from the fact that I can ask some questions on the scientific grounds for which they don't have answer, that are assumptions, that is very important. But that's also philosophy of science. But I do have some philosophical problems, with what evolution is. And one of them that we brought during the class on atheism, challenging the unbelievers, what is your ground for the universality and the legitimacy of ethics? What is your ground for reliability of reason and sense perceptions and cognitive faculties? Those things are not scientific arguments, they are philosophical arguments, and we can develop some kinds of arguments that doesn't have to be scientific. I think Kaya raised her hand, and then can I have Pastor Steve, and there is Laura also.
I'm just commenting the sense of security and developing that is, like, to my mind, answers 1,000 more questions than having the right arguments. But I don't want to diminish that, the value of developing the arguments, but really the quality of who I think I am.
Yes.
in the conversation.
Exactly. I think it's exactly what we said first in the week is the attitude is maybe the most important thing. And the attitude and the attitude as a Christian before I am asked questions, but that will trigger the questions. And also the attitude during the answer because of the confidence we had. And the confidence not only comes from knowledge of the arguments, but also we said, if you remember, the confidence also comes from the positions that I have in Christ, which means that if I have a secure positions, I don't care about winning an argument, and that will change my attitude in the discussions. Exactly.
I just would like to second Pastor Tiro's motion there. For those of us without a scientific background, I mean, I'm not assuming that about him, but I still think it would be helpful for us who are evangelizing the average guy in the street, not somebody like Sam and with their specific ministry, somebody who's really capable to go up against the very well-educated. But I think the average person in the street also knows basically nothing but what they've heard and just have accepted, and that it would be valuable just to have some simple arguments showing what evolutionists believe and how to
Yes.
dismantle it, I think it would be helpful for us.
Yeah. Yes.
Scientifically, I mean, not
Yes.
not just
Which one-
philosophically.
Which you can ask. You can ask for me because I won't be.
Okay,
able.
okay.
But you can ask tonight. You can ask Pastor Phil Norman, will be here tonight. I mean, I do have some arguments, but my arguments, most of them are questions that I ask, because I think this is very important for people to be able to answer the questions before they ask us to move on to their positions and say embrace evolution.
I'm just curious. What could you give me an example, like one or two examples of what you think is a good argument from their side? Then.
Oh, from the
Philosophy
they
of science.
Okay, yeah. For example, they are saying one of the big words now in I mentioned it quickly the other day. One of the big words in the social Darwinism or social evolution is altruism, meaning that this is a way for them to explain the evolution of ethics. Why do we have ethics? Because altruism is the reason why we are tending to altruism, which is amazing to say this, because we are not. How can we complain with sociologists that our societies are becoming more and more individualistic, and at the same time we're saying we are tending toward altruism? That doesn't make any sense. But in a way, they are trying to explain, so they're constructing arguments, philosophical arguments, to answer the questions, where does our ethics come from? So altruism is the big deal right now in social Darwinism. But the simple way to put that, this is where we need to, and I'm not saying this is the strongest argument to which I am challenged by. I'm saying this is the most consistent argument that we hear right now that is beyond science, because I think, as Pastor Klika and Pastor Norman said yesterday, is that the intelligent design in America is becoming big. And in France, there is a couple of medical doctors who are not Christian at all that actually talk about the human computer. There is a new theory by a doctor. I don't know, I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying that the guy is making a sense that this is a big piece of engineering. We have to, so even in the secular France, the guy, I mean, he was invited to do conference at the seminary when I'm doing my doctorate degree. And he did great presenting these. I mean, and so at the end, the professor invited him. He says, "You're just missing God in your presentation." It was good for him to hear that. So they had some kind of discussions. So it took advantage of sharing the gospel with him. But it was so on the scientific level, I think that there will be maybe in the next decades a lot of debate on scientific, that saying maybe we don't have all it together in science. This is why I think, Dawkins and the other Dawkins and the other guys are so violent in the way they attack creationism, because they are seeing it's like it's a giant with a clay feet in many ways. So they're coming up with this and saying, altruism is the answer. This is why we have ethics in this world. But to me, it begs the questions, because the idea of altruism coming up and appearing in the society is because it's better for the survival. But the survival of our species mean that our species needs to survive. And it needs to survive because it is valuable. So if you bring in altruism as an explanation of the origin of ethics, you're not answering the questions, because altruism come in for us to survive because we are valuable already. So we were valuable before altruism came in. So you're not answering the question. You're actually trying to answer the question. So it's kind of a difficult argument to use, but in the same, this is why it seems to be a strong argument. But there is an answer, as I just said. I don't think it makes any sense, because you're actually begging the question again. But this is one of the big themes of social Darwinism, of social evolutionists, of philosophy of evolution. Did we have Pastor Alto? Maybe ladies first, and then we can Pastor Alto.
Could you explain again the presuppositions when a person says that I don't believe in God because of evil, and the circular reasoning, like to reveal the circular reasoning behind that presupposition? Okay. Could you just explain one more time?
Yes. You mean the the point that Ravi Zacharias made, or the point that we made? Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, this is Ravi Zacharias. This is your code 36 on your paper. Ravi Zacharias said that for you to be able to ask the question, how can I believe in God because there is evil in the world, you have to believe in God to say that. Because if you don't believe in God, then you cannot differentiate between good and evil. You can explain why there is good and evil. This is what we've been saying about the ground for ethics. If you have no ground for ethics, then why do you say that there are evil into the world? To say that there is evil into the world, you have to explain that there is evil, but if there is evil, there is good. And if there is good and evil, then there has to be a way to differentiate both. And that difference has to have an ultimate reference that would have to be God. So you are actually saying that there is evil in the world, but by saying there is evil in the world, you have to posit the existence of God. That was the argument that Ravi Zacharias made, which, again, was not enough. But he's useful because we need to use that at the end of the argument by asking, okay, now what is your, as an unbeliever, what is your explanation of evil in the world? We've said several things in the same, level several times. People are saying things sometimes, and they are developing theories that don't relate to reality, that don't relate to the practicality of life, because they are trying to escape reality. Is that good? Yeah, sadist. Yeah.
Just a couple of things before I give it to Pastor. I mean, I could answer, that communication with Ravi Zacharias, I could say, okay, I'm an atheist. I could say, and as such, I don't believe there's anything as good as evil. I'm just totally deterministic. So,
yes.
But you guys, you Christians, believe there's such a thing as good and evil, and yet, according to your system of good and evil, I think your God is evil. I think I am able to ask that question because
yes.
I'm not saying.
Yes.
I'm not saying that there is good. I'm saying that's what you're saying and challenging you.
Yeah, that's what we said. It's what I said that Ravi Zacharias, we cannot stop with these arguments. But I think we answered the questions by saying we did.
Yeah. But I think sometimes people,
Yeah.
The other thing also, I think we have to understand that truly the greatest evil on the planet is not all the things that we see, like the abortion and the starvation and 9/11, but it's systems that are taking people to hell, like Islam and Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, that's the evil that we are taking a stand against.
Yes.
Because all the others, there's an option. With that, there's no
Yes. Sato?
Just thinking about the wisdom of the soul-winning situation, and I'm just back in the science subject a little bit here. I think that, like, you've been stressing the credibility that I have as a soul winner or as an apologist. That is very important. Like, it's if I'm thinking about that somebody has received through media, many different ways, throughout his schooling, throughout his studying in the university, through, like, from friends, his discussion, everywhere he's been getting this one message about evolution. And then comes one person, single voice in all his life, that is like telling something else, like, no, you are wrong.
Yes.
My credibility to start with is extremely low. Like he is, if he's an educated person, he would be quickly just dismissing as a crackpot.
Yes.
I have all these reasons, all these scientific arguments, And in fact, I really don't know so well what I'm even talking about. Yes. So for me to engage this person in a common sense ground, like, does this make sense? Why this doesn't make sense? Why I think that, like, Christianity makes sense, that is a very sound basis for me, because I don't need to show any expertise about these things. I don't know so much. And also, it is not centered on these odd facts that he has never thought or considered about. So I think, like, that brings me kind of answering, like, the question, what's the merit of all this knowledge in the soul-winning situation? It may have merit if God opens that line of discussion, but I don't necessarily want to pursue it.
Yes. What I want to say about this is, and hear what I'm saying. I'm not going against what I said yesterday, but let's say I meet somebody who's in the street. He's a believer. He's a non-believer, and he's arguing for the, and his hindrance is that you cannot tell me, that there is no evolution, that there is creation. I can't believe that. What I want to know is, what are you talking about? People, most of the times, are bothered with the idea of a young Earth. The universe has to be billions of years. In my position, personally, if the line is death and sin connected, then you can have all the billions of years you want for the universe, as long as there is no death. Meaning that if the universe was 50 billions of years old before God planted what he did in Genesis 1 on the planet Earth, I'm fine. The idea being is that I believe that God created the earth in 6 days. But do I have to believe that the earth is 6,000 years? I don't. I don't care. You can have all the billions of years you want. What I do care about is that when Adam and Eve came on the earth, they were the first human beings. And they were the first to bring death into the universe. This is it. You can have, even if you want the 6 days to be 6 times 1,000 years, during which no animal died, and that means that a bird will live 1,000 years minimum, you can have it if you want. I don't care. Because you don't touch my theological line, which is you're not separating death and sin. And to me, what I found is that it opens the door for discussions. I'm not compromising with my positions. I'm compromising what he thinks my position is. I don't have to debate with an unbeliever about Yom. Is it 6 times 24 hours? And the word Yom comes with a number in the morning and the evening, blah, blah. He doesn't care. He doesn't know Hebrew. He doesn't care. He doesn't know what you're talking about. I don't have to. I'm just saying this is what you need to understand. This is why, and I explain why I draw the line. But you can have all the billions of years for the universe if you want. Yeah, what about the dinosaurs? The dinosaurs existed in the same time that man existed. There was no first creation, because the problem with the gap theory, you heard about it, right? The gap theory is that it's between the first part of Genesis 1 and Genesis 1:2. You have the tohu bohu, and the gap theory meaning that there was a first creation, and that God destroyed it, and then it became the new creation. This way they had the dinosaurs and all that, and to me it's kind of trying to find a way to reconcile both creation and evolution. I don't care about that. If there is gap theory, it's between at some point God created the universe billions of years ago, and he did something else. He was busy, just enjoying himself in the Trinity, and he came back and he built the earth. This is it. There is no life on there. There's nothing. I'm fine. We can have all the billions of years you want. No problem for me. Because you have to understand, the universe had to have billions of years to expand. Yes, take all the years you want. Go with it. It's fine. We're not talking about that. And then I can focus, instead of spending hours of defending something that doesn't need to be defended on a theological level, I'm just showing him the gospel. If you have that, if you're secure with this, just take it. It's fine. I don't believe it because I think God can do whatever he wants. But the universe has to be old. Well, I believe the universe could have been created old, just like he created Adam and Eve as adults. We spoke about that yesterday. If he created Adam and Eve as adults, he could have created the whole universe as adults. I don't think that when God planted, the tree, an oak tree, he waited 150 years for the oak tree to be big enough to give him some shade. No, Everything was there. So the universe could appear old. This is one of some apologists that use the arguments. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this or not, but I'm just saying I don't have to. I can explain to him, if the creation is true, then it includes Adam and Eve and the universe. And then it takes away the tension of having to, I feel, oh man, I'm compromising. I'm not defending the 6 times 24 hours. Whatever, the Bible says something, I believe it. I draw my line on a theological level, not on some kind of a fundamentalist / people are, and we're coming into some kind of Pharisees, legalism. And there are some creationists that go around, and they're actually telling you that, they are very strong against Christians who don't believe like them. But the issue is theological. The issue is not you trying to develop a model that looks like a scientific model that you cannot defend, because the more you put into, and we said earlier, the more science I put into my creationism, the more I take away from God being the creator. So, a little mystery is fine, and convictions are there. This you will never move. And to me, when they ask me, okay, now, do you believe in 6-day creations? I say, yes, I do. I do. Don't you think this is ridiculous? This is not ridiculous if you believe that there is a God. Okay, well, okay. So you see, it relieves the tensions. Do you believe in young earth? Yes, I do. It's fine. In young earth in reality, not young earth in appearance. Young earth in reality was created maybe so many years ago. I don't debate. It's not worth it, because I'm not compromising, and in the same time, I'm not a stumbling block for the opening of the gospel. So we need to hold to the convictions that are very important to us. And when they ask us truthfully to say what we believe, then we need to tell them. I don't want to no, I don't. I don't believe in 6 days. I do. So I tell him I do, but this is not the issue. All right. So it's past 5 minutes. I think we're good. We have our little gathering with the credit students, and we meet again at 5 for the last session of the week. Thank you.